In this particular video, we're going to make a really simple project. We are going to needle felt a little heart. So here are a couple that I've made previously, and we're going to show you how to make that today. I'll just put those aside. We're going to use a mould made by Clover, and you'll see we've got 4 different shapes on this one, 3 shaped hearts and a leaf shape. So we're going to use the biggest heart shape. Clover make lots of different mould. The felted items that we use the moulds for, you can use them as applique or just as little 3D little items like this, which you could then string together as bunting or wall hangings, or maybe even a mobile. What we need is, obviously we need our mould tool. We are going to our needles, so I'm going to be using the silver one. That will be my starter needle. Once we got them in the handles, it's not quite so easy to identify them, so I try to keep them in the same place on my needle mat. So I'm going to put my silver one over here. I'm going to need the red one, and the reason I'll use that in the middle, so once I've started felting the roving together, I'll then go on to use the red one, and then we're going to finish off using the gold one. So you'll notice that I put them in 3 different places on my mat, so I know I've got silver, red and gold, and I'm going to use them in that order. Place our mould on the mat. Now, it's always a good idea to have finger tools, because believe me, when you stab yourself with a felting needle, it really does hurt. They are barbed, so it's a bit like I guess a fishing hook. They're barbed as well, and if you get that caught in your finger, it's really hard to get out, and it hurts for a very long time. So I like to use my finger guards. So I've got the one for my thumb, these are made from leather, and one for my finger. Now I use them on my left hand because I'm right-handed, so I'll be doing all my stabbing with my right hand, and I'll need to hold with my left hand. Now, because I'll be starting with the mould, I won't need these on straight away, so I'm going to put them to one side until I'm ready to hold the heart in my fingers. Now we're going to be using something called roving to make our heart. Now roving is wool. It can come in lots of different colours if it's been dyed, or you can get it in a natural colour. Now on the camera I can see that this looks orange. It is in fact red. Right, to separate our roving so that we have fine wispy bits like this, because we only need small amounts and we layer them up and we build up the amount that we want. So to separate your roving, you're just going to hold gently, don't grip it, you're going to gently hold it in one hand, and with your other hand you're just going to fold your fingers over the top, and you need about 3 inches apart, and then you're just going to gently tease it away. Can you see how easy that separates? And then we've got a small handful of fibres. So let me show you that again. If I grip it, and I grip this end and I'm pulling, you can see from my hands how much I'm pulling, and it's not separating. So relax your grip, gently hold it in one hand, fold your fingers over so that you're gripping the fibres in your palm, and you just pull with the hand that's folded over the end, and you just gently tease it apart like that. So you get yourself a pile of roving. So this is one that I've already started, and you see it's nice and fluffy, and this is what we're going to use to make our heart. So when you're ready to begin, you're just going to pick up some of the fluffy bits of roving like this, just a small handful, fold it in on itself, and then just place it in the mould. You see I've just tucked that in there. Okay, and then get your starter needle. So this could be the silver one, or it could be a green one. I'm using the silver one today, and I'm just going to gently start stabbing in an up and down motion. You see I'm going in and out, up and down. I'm not going at an angle, and I'm not actually felting it straight into the mat underneath. There is no need for you to have to push it right the way in like this. You'll hear the change in the sound. So if I push it all in, you'll hear a kind of grating sound as it goes into the mat. You don't need to do that. You just gently up and down in the roving working around the shape, gently stabbing to push those fibres together. Now it's very important to remember when you're using either a foam mat like this or the brush mat that I showed in a previous video, that the fibres will felt into the surface. So you have to remember to lift your mould, peel your felt off, tuck it back into your mould, and then do it again. Gently up and down motion. Don't go at an angle like this because you'll end up hitting the mould, and you don't want to hit the mould because it will break the needle. And just gently up and down. You may even just bend the needle, and that makes it just as difficult to use. Up and down, and we're only lightly felting it at this point because we want to make it a little bit thicker. So I'm going to lift that off again. I'm going to turn it over now and then put it back into my mould. The reason for that is because we want to felt the other side as well. So we very gently push the fibres together with our needles. And you see how it's getting flatter. It's not as fluffy. Okay. So I'm going all the way around the outside. I'm also going in the middle as well. And we're quite a lot flatter than we were, so I'm going to lift that up and I'm going to pop that back in again. And then I'm going to get a little bit more of our fluffy roving. Sometimes I separate it out and layer it up again like so. And I'm just going to sit that on the top of the mould. And then with my needle, and being careful of my fingers, I'm going to start pushing that into the first bit. And see how we're condensing it, making it flatter. And I'm pushing these fibres into the first layer of roving that we put into the mould. Going around the edges because that will start shaping it. And then I start in the middle as well and push those in together. Now I have to remember to lift it out. See how I lifted that off and it's left the heart behind? So I need to peel the fibres off, pop it back in my mould so that it keeps the shape, and I can do a bit more stabbing. Now I'm finding it a little bit harder to push this needle into the felting now, and that just means that I'm making it a little bit more condensed and a little bit stiffer. Right, so when I lift my mould up and the heart hasn't stayed on the mat, I then just turn the mould over so that I can do the other side. Now perhaps you want your heart to maybe be a little bit thicker than this one, because you'll see the amount of felt that we had, it filled the mould, and as we're stabbing it's actually making it thinner. So what you then do, if you want to make it a little bit thicker, you just grab a few more fibres. I'm going to fold them in on themselves and then tuck them into the mould. And very carefully, minding my fingers, start using my needle to then push those fibres in. And I'm using the shape of the heart to create the shape with the felt. Sometimes I get a few fibres caught over this part. So all I do is I use the edge of the needle to slide them in so that I can then push them into where I want them to go. You see how it's got considerably smaller. That's because this stabbing motion is pushing the fibres of the roving into the previous layer. Okay. So I'm now going to lift my mould. You can see the heart has stayed behind. Now I want to work onto the other side, so I'm actually going to turn my mould over, turn the heart over. I'm going to just gently push it back into the mould so that I can then felt this side as well. Now I'm not going to add any more fibres to this shape because I've got as much as I require. So I go around the edge of the heart shape, following the direction of the mould to do the edges, and then stab in the middle as well so that I can condense the centre. And you'll see I'm not pushing my needle all the way in. If I were to push my needle all the way in, you'll see it go all the way down there. I don't want to do that because then you're actually pushing the fibres into your foam base. Turn that over. I want to do that side again, so I turn my mould over and I push the heart back in so I can then felt this side. Now at this point you'll find it getting a lot stiffer to push that needle into your wool. And if you're finding it difficult, then all you need to do is put your silver or your green one to one side and you'll pick up your red one. It's a little bit finer and it just means that you can continue to stab and you're going a little bit further into it. It makes it a little bit easier. So it's a progression. And when you've stabbed one side for a little while, lift your mould, turn it over. Can you see we've got a ridge? You can see how it's ridged. That's where it's pushing out from underneath the mould as we're stabbing. So I turn my mould over. I'm just going to push the heart back in. And I'm going to use this red one to shape the edges a little bit better. But we'll finish it off with the gold needle, and that will just give it a much neater finish. So I'm now going just round the outside, using the needle to knit all those fibres together. Because the idea is we don't want a really fluffy heart, we want it to be dense, we want it to be stiff. And once you've gone around the outside a bit, I can see from my mould that it's not creeping out from underneath so much. So you can then go back into the middle area of the heart and continue to stab. You can see all the needle marks. And what we're trying to do is just do it evenly around the surface. Okay, lift it, and we're going to turn it over so that we can felt this side. Left the needle behind. Oh, going a little bit too fast there and catching myself on the edge of the mould. If you do that too often, you end up bending the needle or maybe even breaking the needle. Now it's still a bit fluffy. See, it's a little bit easier now because the heart has stayed in the mould. So we just flip it over and we can do the other side. So all those fibres are really starting to knit together really well. Turn it over again. Just going to work it for a little bit longer. Lift it, turn it. This is so that we're stabbing in a different direction, and it just helps knit all those fibres together better. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So what I do now, I'm going to put my finger guards on, because I will stab myself. And what I'm going to do, can you see we're still a bit squishy around the edges? You see how it's really fluffy here? So while I've still got the red needle, I'm just going to felt in. So I'm going along the side, so you'll notice that I'm going in sideways now, and that's okay at this point. Very fluffy around this edge. So we're just using our needle just to stiffen that up a bit more before we go over and use the gold needle. You can see here, this is the layers where we put the layers of the roving together. It just means that one layer became felted more than the other before we put the next lot in. So we're just going to use our needle, the red one, just to knit that together just a little bit more. And at this point we don't want to change the shape of it. We're just doing gentle stabs. We're not changing the shape of our heart. Come around the point. Now the reason these side edges were still a bit fluffy is because we've been using the mould, and it's just a little bit more difficult to get to this bit while we're felting. You can see this is now a little bit more dense compared to this side where it's still really squishy. I'm trying not to change the shape. You notice I'll keep turning it, so I'll stab in one direction, and then I'll turn it and stab in another direction. It's a good practice to get into. At least then you'll know that you're doing it a little bit more evenly all the way around. Be very careful as you come across the top here. You don't want to change the shape of that curve, but you do still need to knit some of those fibres together. Okay, so I think I'm done with my red needle, which is looking a little bent. And I'm going to pick up my gold one, so the one for fine detail. So this is just for finishing off. So at the point here, I'm just going to use my gold one to give that dip a little bit more definition. And I'm going to use it for going around the outside, and just to finish the shape off. still very easy to push the needles in at this point. It's definitely not as dense as it is in the middle. Come around this curve. It's quite therapeutic. Now I'm glad I've got the finger guards on, because every so often I can feel the needle hitting the leather. And if I didn't have those on, I'd have stabbed my fingers a few times. Right, coming around to do the point now. Just finish off the edges there. You just keep going until you think that you're done. If you want it stiffer and denser and more solid, you can just keep going until you reach the effect that you're looking for. Now I'm fairly happy with this now. It's not going to pull apart. Still stabbing my thumb with the needle. I've got some layers here that still haven't gone in too well. But again, that's not going to come apart. Put that down. So you can pull on it. No, we're not going to. Let's take those off. So those fibres, they're not going to come apart. Now it's still quite fluffy around the edges, so what I like to do is then I'll just rub it in my hands. It helps to smooth some of those needle holes out. Let's see, it's starting to look a little better. Some people take a razor to them just to get those last fine bits of fluffiness off, so you can see tiny little fibres. Some people like to shave those off. Give it another little rub, and there's the heart we've just made, and there's the one I made previously. And that's how we make the hearts using a mould.